This is the Waupaca Area School District Board of Education meeting.
With that, I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, let the record reflect that all board members, with the exception of Betty Mannion, are present. Betty has been excused for the evening due to a personal item. Move on to the approval of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to public comment. Any comments at this point from any individuals that would like to address the board?
I would like to see us prepared to repair what has gone wrong in this district and build the trust again between the staff and the administration and the board. It's been hard, and you have to know it's been hard. So please work towards changing that.
Any other comments? Okay, so we'll move on then to item 6, approval of the minutes. We'll start with the April 10, 2018 regular board meeting.
So move for approval.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion, questions, or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The April 26, 2018 special board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve and second. Any comments, corrections, or questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Finally, the May 7th, 2018 special board meeting.
I would move approval of those minutes.
Motion to approve
Second.
and a second, 2 seconds. Any comments, questions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to item 7, communications. Dr. Neal?
So State Superintendent Dr. Tony Evers has made a proclamation that this week is School Nutrition Employee Week, May 7th through the 11th. And although we do currently contract for food service through Chartwell, we still regard our food service employees as part of our team, and we thank them for the important service that they provide each and every day to our students. And next, we've got some congratulations for some of our student services staff. Denise Seafelt, Mary Trice, and Jenny Gross have all received WCAS Region 5 awards and have been recognized for their contributions as support staff members. So congratulations to those folks and to their administrative leadership on this month. Congratulations also to Carl Hayek and his business services staff. The school district of Waupaca has been selected as the recipient of the WASBO 2018 Business Services Award, sponsored by Baird. And this is for recognition of the innovative programming that the district has put together this year by way of the telehealth and teletherapy supports. So congratulations to Carl and his staff. Yes. WASBO, I'm sorry. WASBO is an acronym for Wisconsin Association of School Business Officials. And then finally, under recognition, we have our winter sports recognition. This is submitted by Mr. Eggebrecht. For boys basketball, we have Justin Vaughn, honorable mention all conference. Brandon Wanty, second team all conference. Girls basketball, we have Emma Smith, honorable mention all conference. Boys hockey, we have Jack Menzies, second team all conference, first team Post Crescent. and as well as Cody Rasmussen, honorable mention, Post Crescent. And then girls hockey, we have Avery Simonson, honorable mention, Post Crescent, honorable mention, All-State. Marky Ash, first team, Post Crescent, first team, All-State. Katie Ash, honorable mention, Post Crescent. Is that Katie or Sadie? Katie, thank you. And then for wrestling, of course, we have Tanner Johnson, honorable mention, all conference. So congratulations to all of our winter sport participants and students.
It's not objective, that's called.
Well, we addressed that, one of the individuals that were named under the sports recognition under the basketball, Brandon Wanty has also been invited to participate in the Down Under tournament in Australia, representing one of the teams or being a part of one of the teams from Wisconsin. So I forget the number. There are a number of teams from Wisconsin as well as other areas. So it's quite an opportunity to bring him up. So.
Never relinquish control of the remote, so
This would be a good time to do it. As you work on that, we'll go ahead and continue with the district administrator's report.
May 6th through May 12th, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. This week is a special time when we celebrate and honor those who have taken up one of the most honorable professions, that of teaching. This week, as each of the buildings, our parent-teacher associations and administrators have a number of special events scheduled to show gratitude for our teachers. In addition to the individual celebrations happening this week, our food service department will be delivering fresh, warm sweet rolls and Starbucks coffee this Friday morning. Special thank you goes out to all of our educators. On Thursday, April 26th, approximately 55 district personnel and community members came together with the Board of Education to review the progress of the community conversation referred to as #WaupacaWay2K30. The consensus of those in attendance was that the priorities identified in 2017 have been implemented according to the direction provided. Additional information and direction was solicited at the event and will be the subject of future board workshops and meetings. Thank you to all of those who have been a part of this process. The Wisconsin Association of School Boards recently requested submissions for musical auditions, student art, and breakout sessions to be part of the 98th Annual State Convention in Milwaukee. New to the convention this year will be the presentation of the 1968 Camaro that has been the subject of the classic car restoration class taught by our own Bill Krosberg. The car will be featured at the convention along with Mr. Krosberg and some of the Waupaca High School students who have been a part of this special and innovative class. A special thank you to Tim Neville and Neville Motors for their sponsorship of the project. The Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors met this morning and received several updates from President Terry Schultz. Waupaca County tourism impacts were recently released and outlined a 5.32% increase in visitor spending, a 4.5% increase in total business sales, and a 0.5% increase in employment. The Waupaca Area Chamber of Commerce Golf outing is scheduled for June 4th at Glacier Wood Golf in Iowa. Benefits from the outing support youth educational programs and the beautification fund. The district received notice from the State Division of Transportation regarding bridge projects on Highway 22 over Crystal River, the Canadian National Railroad, and the South Branch of the Little Wolf River. The projects are scheduled for 2020 but could begin in 2019. Impacts to our transportation system will be monitored and shared as appropriate. Finally, this spring, through the Seal a Smile program, we had 94 high school students that received treatment, of which 10 had untreated tooth decay and an additional student that was sent directly for emergent dental care. Thanks to our school nurses and our high school teaching staff for making this program a big success. Thank you.
And then we'll move to board monitoring.
We have Miss Wendy.
Did you get that video?
Some samples, so there's.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Wendy Vandenbush, and I'm the district reading specialist and also newly one of the MTSS coaches for next year, so I'm really looking forward to that job as well. But I did want to present just a little bit of information for all the work that our staff has been doing with a new initiative as of this year, which is the implementation of the Lucy Hawkins Units of Study and Writing. This is just a wonderful quote by Lucy that I found, and it is definitely applicable to our teaching staff. They've worked really hard to provide consistent and constant opportunities to lean into our students, especially our students' writing this year. And we have been delightedly surprised for the results that we've gotten so far with those students. In the school board packet, you have just a little bit of background that this is our first year of implementation. This year we had K through 8 teachers. The Lucy Hawkins program is a program that runs from kindergarten through 8th grade. So we had about 54 ELA teachers this year working together to introduce our students to this workshop. And so because we wanted to build capacity for as many grade levels as possible, we also, some grades were also provided with some basically part-time coaching. And we really focused each week on when we met with those grade levels to focus on the Lucy Hawkins program, how it's going, the achievements, and some of the challenges that they have gone through. So on the next slide, yes, this is the perfect one. I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit quickly about how Lucy Hawkins is different than what we've been doing in the past. And one of the biggest things is that it's a workshop style. Now, sometimes when we think of workshop, we think of unstructured, but what's wonderful about this program is that it is actually a really nice structure that provides support for all learners. It's really good to provide, it has provisions for students who are struggling a bit. It also has provisions on ways of moving up for all of our students who maybe are on the higher end and know a little bit more about writing. And the other thing that I love about this program is that it's really allows for student ownership. Students literally from the age of 5, when they're in kindergarten, take and get to make choices about what they're writing about, what they're interested about, what they know about. And that's one of the really nice things about this particular program. It always starts off with a mini lesson, and that mini lesson is also structured. Lucy Hawkins has been around for many, many years, and so it's very well researched. The mini lesson includes a specific teaching point for the day, and it also includes a lot of teacher modeling and student practice, student talk. And then the students are actually released to go ahead and have independent practice of for writing every single day. With littler kids, it's 20 to 30 minutes of sustained writing by this time of year. With older kids, it's anywhere from 40 minutes to probably 60 minutes or so of writing each day. And so that, of course, has increased our volume hugely this year. While the kids are independently practicing, the teacher is actually walking around and conferring with students. And again, that is a process, and it's kind of sort of, I would say, the coaching model. So the teacher is conferring with students at an individual level, looking for strengths and also looking for ways to push those students forward. So that's a really neat thing about the way that this system is structured. One big thing we've noticed is teachers have said all year long that children love writing. Now, and I don't know if you know this, but we don't hear that all the time, especially with writing. They love writing. They consider themselves writing experts, writing wizards, whatever the teacher decides to call their group of writers. And we have seen a huge increase in the volume of writing. So this being our first year, we're really excited to see that enthusiasm. The other thing that teachers are realizing, of course, is that they're getting a lot out of it as well. So on the next slide, the other big thing that's kind of a change for us this year has been just that the teachers have really been meeting purposefully every week to talk about the implementation and how it's going. So it's been great for teachers to get together. This year they are taking their prep time or their team time to talk about it. Next year, because you put it on the schedule, it'll be some of those Wednesday times that they'll be able to do that. So what's great is that they have regular collaboration. They are able to, they've been encouraged and are really loving to make decisions as a group. And we are using the same language with kids within the grade level and then across grade levels. So I'm really, really excited to see what this is going to do for our students, especially over the next couple of years into the future. Finally, let's see here. Let's see what I have on my next one. Okay, this is just a little bit of data. Now I'm still basically getting all the data entered. I was able, though, to get, this is data for kindergarten, first and second grade students, both at the Waupaca Learning Center and at the Chain School. This is combined data. Something really simple, we look at growth, first of all, from fall to spring, and we consider on our rubric, when we assess the students, our rubric is a 4-point rubric, a score of 3 being proficient, and a 4 being advanced. And so you can see from in the grade kindergarten, 0, we didn't have any students that were considered proficient according to that rubric. Now we have 82% of our kindergartners that are showing that score. And then you can see for first grade and second grade from 11 and 7% to 60 and 65%. We would hope and we would have a goal next year to get those numbers even higher, as high as we possibly can. So those are just the numbers from this year, just for a small portion of our students that have worked on this. And then I do have a couple little samples. So I wanted to just explain real quickly about pre-test, post-test, and developed writing. So these are for 3 different purposes, or actually 2 different purposes. A pre-test, the teacher gives the students a pre-test before they start a certain type of writing. And that is basically an on-demand piece of writing. The students are given about 40 minutes, 45 minutes to show what they know about that type of writing. It's completely independent. It's not easy. I know teachers get sometimes a little bit frustrated, but the idea is we want to see exactly where kids are, because when we judge them on that rubric, we can then get a really good picture of the different skills that they know and then the skills that they still need to be working on. And so this will help us set goals as teachers. This helps us set goals as to where are we going to have that student try to go next in their writing. After the teaching is done, after the unit is done, the students do a post-test that is formatted similarly, 45 minutes of independent writing. And the goal there is basically to see how much of the teaching stuck. Like, what in our instruction are the kids able to perform independently now that we have provided instruction, and what maybe do we still need to change a little bit in order for us to move forward as teachers and to push the students forward into the next area of writing. And then finally, there's developed writing. And so during the course of the unit, the students they can choose to write anything pretty much that they want. In younger grades, we have a lot of independent, everyday, different story kind of writing. When we get into middle school, it is much more developed, much more time is taken. They might even develop one piece over the course of that unit. And so that is where students get to try out all the things that they're taught by the teachers, and each day during their mini lesson. And so they're asked to try out different techniques. They look at mentor text to study experts in writing, and then they get to try out those things. So the packet that I handed out to you, to the board, I just want to show the first picture. So this is what we get in kindergarten. And I'm not going to show you the whole packet, but I do have a sample from kindergarten, 2nd, and 4th grade. So this is what we have at the beginning of kindergarten. You can see a picture drawn, and then the writing underneath is the dictation that student gave to the teacher. And so most kids are coming to, they come to us, some of them know some letters and some of the sounds and things like that, but a lot of students, this is where they're at the very beginning of the year. And so the next slide then is the same student, more like in about February, March. So this is, I have the whole story for the board, which I think you'll enjoy, but this is page 2, and I did I wrote it out for you. This is a student who was writing all about pigs. He happens to live on a farm, and he has to take care of the pigs. So that's one of the things. And one of the things that is in this feature is that you can see labels for the pictures. In this particular one, they're working on diagrams and the features of informational text. And then also one of the things that they're asked to do is try to add details. So this student originally wrote, "Then feed the pig." And then when he was prompted and when the teacher conferred with him, he added what they ate. They eat apples and banana peels and eggshells. And like I said, I have a couple more examples, and like I said, the full story here, or in your packet that you can enjoy. But I just wanted to share those couple samples. And you should be, I hope you're really proud of your students, the community of students, and the teachers' hard work. They worked really, really hard and done amazing things that they didn't think they could do this year. So I'm just really pleased to let you know that. Thank you.
Any questions?
Oh yeah, questions.
Yeah, obviously when we look at this, the story written by the student, it's basically paper and pen. When does the technology start to enter into this process where maybe a keyboard is used or whatever?
I would say that somewhat depends on the teacher. I know that often in 2nd grade, we have students on computers and doing some keyboarding certainly as early as 2nd grade, maybe even a little bit earlier than that. Because one of the things I know, though, that in writing, we want kids, especially young children, to be using those fine motor skills and using that process of going from the brain and physically out the fingers to, formulate letters, formulate words, and then process through sentences and stories and things like that. So we know that writing with a pencil or a pen is actually really good for them as far as the processing goes. But I would say, depending on how the teacher wanted to develop the piece, it could be certainly as early as 2nd grade. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm teaching it in 7th grade.
Yeah.
So some certain types of writing lend itself directly to the computer. We start the year with personal narratives, so I'm doing pen and paper because that's how we start the year. Halfway through the year, we do informational essays where they have to do research, document their research, and use bibliography and use quotes in their text. So then I use the computer. And then at the end of the year, they're so distracted by the computer that I'm back to argumentative writing we're doing now. No computer at all. because it just gets to be sometimes too distracting. So if I choose the writing project to use technology, we definitely use it, but not for every writing piece that I do.
Were the changes that you saw from fall to spring semester what you might have anticipated, or was it at all a surprise to you as to what the change was?
I would say about what we would anticipate. Often when you're starting something new, we're not going to expect the numbers to be way up high initially. What we're really hoping is in the next few years of implementation, we'll see some much higher numbers. That's what I would hope and anticipate. These numbers were about the same as the past few years, as I compare. Some were a little higher, some were a little lower.
Yeah, but do students continue to illustrate their books through 8th grade? And
Not necessarily, no.
are art teachers
It's
involved?
really a focus, I would say K1, 2, maybe some 3, maybe some 3rd grade. But really, the whole point of illustration actually at the young age is because we know that's how small kids start off storytelling, is by using those pictures. That's what they can express, that's what they can express with their hands, and what they can express with their minds is that visual. So for many kids, especially those younger kids, it really helps them get ideas and keep ideas for writing, as they can sketch it out first. So that's actually taught for a purpose too. But yeah, I would say probably 3rd, 4th grade is when they're, it's going to be much more word driven and not as much picture driven.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move to the board section. We'll start with reports on meetings attended. Were there any non-school board meetings attended that any member of the board would like to report on?
I went to Innovative Schools Network convention with our charter school staff, other elementary staff, and governance council members. And actually, I have such a good segue from my discussion of the school visit into the charter school visit that I'd rather wait to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
That's absolutely fine. Other meetings attended other than school board meetings? Okay. We'll move on to school visits and the reports that everyone would like to make tonight.
I was interested because I had been reading about restorative justice, and I talked with Ms. Marcon about restorative justice within the school district, and she told me that Laura Colbert has expertise in that area. So she was very generous with her time. We spent an hour talking about the use of restorative justice in schools, but then more specifically about using circles as a format. And have any of you participated in circles before, in circle discussions? That was probably the first experience I had at my ISM conference, so it was delightful to see it practice, but it involves a structured process of listening and talking, where you literally organize people in circles, open circles, and people talk one at a time, and it's very respectful. You listen. It can start out with a question that's very non-threatening to start building trust, like, what's your favorite weather? Or what's the best part of your school day? Those kinds of things. A lot of times, I think it's associated with problem solving or dealing with difficult behaviors, but it doesn't have to be. And I think actually, and I started buying books, but so I'll read a passage. No, I won't. But some of the advantages they talk about of using this particular method is, one, it gets everybody in the group a chance to talk. You can pass, and sometimes if people are really uncomfortable with the topic, they can sit outside the circle. And oftentimes, what they find is that those people after a break, want to be part of the circle and be part of the discussion. And sometimes it's less formal, sometimes you just go back and forth. You might have a ball or something in the past to indicate who's speaking, but I've gotten some books then, and she gave me a number of handouts about using this in schools as a way to strengthen and build relationships and trust. People expose vulnerabilities that they might not have done that before. It increases engagement, it gives people a chance to explain. It's not a punitive process, it's really meant to restore relationships that they've been damaged and harmed. Laura has very graciously, I don't see her here tonight, Ms. Colbert has offered to come and give either a monitoring or a presentation that could involve some of us. But it seems very powerful, very positive, and I found it very exciting to talk with her, and she's very enthusiastic about the work that she's done. So she said it's a great way at the end of the day. You have 5 minutes left in the class and you don't know what to do. She tells her students, circle up, and they all come around and they just ask a question, what was the best part of your day? They all go around the room. It's a great way to just build community within classrooms and within school districts, and it can be applied in many, many places. I think you'd enjoy a presentation. Oh, but that brings me to my segue to the Innovative School Network convention that I attended, and I was so grateful to have been invited by the Chain Exploration Center principal and the Governance Council to attend. 3 days, very worthwhile. Our first pre-workshop entitled Courageous Conversations. First thing we did was get in a circle of about 50 people. You can imagine that circle took a long time because we had each 3 questions to answer. The last question was, what are you most anxious about for this? And it was very interesting to hear those responses. Some people were anxious about talking in front of other people. Others, I took kind of a less deep approach. Mine was there were so many good things to choose from that I wasn't quite sure how I made a good conference without going to everything anyway. It was very interesting. I do want to say over 3 days, the course of 3 days, there were some common themes. One of them was equity. That was a very strong focus of a lot of the schools, and Dr. Tony Evers came and spoke, and that's what he started out by saying, that his vision is equity. Let's see if I can find more. Student agency was another, and actually what Mrs. Vandenbush was saying about student ownership was echoed throughout the conference. The students own so much of what they do, and the teachers' work. It does require flexibility in how you structure your class. Each year's classes can be very different, even though you're probably trying to cover the same kind of ground. So equity, sustainability, community, process, innovation, no surprise, was a big word. It's easy to say, it's a little harder to do. INS has lab schools. It would be great if the Chain Exploration Center could serve as a lab school. They talked about competency-based grading, which Principal Flayton had talked about somewhat during our Waupaca Way 2K30. But again, some people said that it's always about the student, that real learning takes place with dynamic social interaction, so relationships are very important. And we did, several of us did attend, there was one workshop on governance board operations, nothing on authorizers, which of course is what we are. It was the very last workshop of the day, and if I had one suggestion, it would have been to put that in the front. I have, however, signed up for, I've applied for participation in the National Association of Charter School Authorizers boot camp this summer. It's an 8-week course. There are only 20 spots. Most of the people who are giving testimonials are either the heads of state charter school organizations or very large school districts. I just have to see. But it was wonderful. I really appreciated the opportunity.
Thank you. Hard to follow that. Okay, any school visits that anyone would wish to report on?
I made a couple of school visits, and they all had to be not by choice, it just accidentally happened, but it was FFA and I attended the FFA awards banquet. It was a great time. FFA does a wonderful job. And today I spent 2.5 hours helping the ag department plant native trees. There was approximately 45 of them planted. And I'm pushing the word helping because I was present and I was watching, and but the word work wasn't quite, I shouldn't be using it. About 30 young people were out doing the work, and I believe those young people, if they're a sample of what is to come with young people, we're in good shape, folks. We are in good shape. And then I would like to just put in a nice word for the plant sale, which is FFA and Ag Department. And it takes place the 10th and the 11th of this week, so get out and buy Mama a plant. Thank you.
And these plants behind us are already spoken for, so don't.
There's still two out here that haven't been there. Well, great. And we would like to thank Ms. Earth for bringing those plants in. She's not here now?
She's out at the plant sale currently. Working for staff.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, upcoming meetings?
On June 1st, senior awards will take place at 8 a.m. June 3rd, graduation will be held at 2 p.m. at high school. On June 8th, the staff appreciation breakfast will begin at 7:30 a.m. And on June 12th, the board will have its regular June board meeting beginning at 5:15 p.m.
Actually, that's 7 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, that's correct. We will have that corrected.
It's posted correctly, it's just wrong on the agenda.
Thank you. And then finally, there are various WASB spring workshops available.
Okay, for those that have not attended the senior awards morning before, if you have the opportunity, I'm just saying it's very, no pun intended, very rewarding for the recipients of the generosity of a number of people, organizations, businesses, etc. Graduation, is there something that you would like to have the board contact if they wish to have a seat reserved?
I would say Principal Plate. Defer that question to you.
Yeah, Joy Griffin.
Joy Griffin.
Nice Griffin.
So if anybody is able to attend, if you would contact her, that would be appreciated. Or there's always the bleachers in the back.
Can we bring up the sound system before we?
The sound system has been recently overhauled and improved. Oh, good. It will be a good experience.
Good.
It will be a great experience.
All right, moving on, Section D, committee meetings. First was on the agenda is instructional committee. Mr. Hawkins.
The first one is the LIFT program. And I'll turn this over to Maureen, since she's in charge of the program, and she knows all the details.
Well, the proposal was to build a house, 1,200 square foot house here on Waupaca property to house our 18 to 21-year-old program. And it would be constructed by Blanker Construction. And the Waupaca High School Architectural Design class would assist Blanker Construction with its design and residential building class. And LIV students would also assist with that. And then we'll have other district school classes like the horticultural class, assist with the landscaping of it, and we'll work with local businesses for our students to become educated in the different processes as we build the house. We'll have architectures here talking about their work and what it means to be an architect, a plumber coming in and sharing information about plumbing as well as an electrician. Students will learn about contracting and zoning, so it will be a very encompassing program for the entire of the high school to learn more information about it as the house is being built. And then the house will provide then these students an opportunity to be more functional more independently functional than within the walls of the high school level. So they truly feel like they're really out in the community more than here.
So Maureen, if we move forward with this project, can you give us a little bit of a timeline? When quote unquote would we break ground and that sort of thing?
That is yet to be determined, but we've already had it. Go ahead.
So we are working with our Building and Grounds Department and Diggers Hotline to identify any underground obstructions or barriers to moving forward with the project. Once we understand what's underneath the topsoil, at that point then Blinker will work in tandem with district leadership to secure all of the required permits to move forward. But the intention would be that our fall residential construction class would begin with the project, as part of their fall curriculum.
2018-19.
Correct.
And looking at this as a 2-year project.
2-year project.
Would this be a stick built on site, or would it be panelized at Blinker?
This would be built right here on site.
Stick built
It would
right
be
on
like
site.
the common houses, but it would be stick
Right.
built on site.
Yeah.
Other questions? Did the committee have a recommendation?
I would make a motion that we approve the common live house on district property contingent upon the concept and permit approvals of covenant amendments.
And I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? For the record, the projections on the cost have remained functionally the same, pending any contributions, any donations that people might make.
Or grants.
Okay. No questions? You said or grants.
Or grants.
Okay. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
The next item is the comment manufacturing, and Mark, you were going to share that.
Yep.
I would do it, but it's a little bit lengthy.
I won't read through it all, but
Oh.
so just know that roughly 30% of our community's workforce is employed in the manufacturing industry, which includes all aspects of manufacturing, from the fabrication to the welding to the machining to the human resources to the accounting side of it to the marketing side to the quality control side, etc., coupled with our community's strong relationships with a lot of our employers and our strong technology and engineering department and computer science department that we have here at Waupaca High School. We thought it would be ideal then to begin to explore opportunities for a student-run machine shop here at Waupaca High School. And so that's kind of where this came from, and looking at no different than if a student declares that they want to go off to a 4-year college or university here, we strongly encourage and counsel them into taking courses that best prepare them, like an AP course or like a CAP course where they'd be earning college credits. If our students are thinking about a technical degree or getting involved in maybe a different aspect of business that could be related to the manufacturing area, then we would encourage them to get involved with this sort of a program as well. So that's kind of where Common Manufacturing comes from, and really be considered a capstone program for our students, where the mission of Common Manufacturing is really about building tomorrow's workforce through the manufacturing process of research and product development, welding, machining, and fabrication. Those would kind of be our cornerstones with it. Students would, of course, would have to complete an application process. They'd go through an interview process. and they would have annual performance reviews, kind of as if they were really working out in the workforce. So again, it's about providing students those experiences that they would receive once they graduate from Waupaca High School, but here in our environment. So that's kind of it in a nutshell at this point in time. And we'd be looking to open the doors to Comet Manufacturing, not next year, but in the following school year, so the 19-20 school year.
Mark, could you just talk, excuse me, a little bit about, as we did in committee, just for the sake of everybody, about how that might change curriculum somewhat, and for next fall, reminding people that everybody who signed up for classes next fall in these areas are already, I mean, those are staying the same.
Yeah, those are already accounted for. Those classes are staying the same, but as we continue to look at it from a capstone perspective, it will provide us that, kind of a forced opportunity to really look at are the courses that we currently have leading up to something as one of these opportunities. So we'd be exploring, looking at those, working with, Fox Valley Technical Institute to say, are there other articulation agreements we can get into, or parts of courses where our students could get a heads up from the competition when they go off to school once they graduate from Waupaca High School. We already have some of those agreements in place, and so we'd just be reviewing some of those, working with Waupaca Foundry on getting OSHA 10 certification for our students involved in a program like this. So again, really looking at it from all aspects. And many thanks to our generous advisory committee members who we've met with multiple times during the course of the school year already, and really provided us with input on this sort of direction.
We did discuss this at length in committee. Are there other questions at this time?
So this is again, not like advanced placement classes in various trade topics. This is actually forming a manufacturing facility on campus, and bidding on work and presumably trying to make a profit and not fail.
Cold calling, sales is a part of it, right? I mean, so what we've heard from our advisory is don't just produce welders, don't just produce fabricators, don't just produce machinists. How can they get a little bit of that training in all aspects? And when they say all aspects, what does quality control? What is sales? What does research and product development look like? What does teamwork look like? What is problem solving? They're really focusing on how do we produce better students, period, as employers. And I think we just are using the manufacturing industry as a medium to teach a lot of those skills based off the equipment that we have in our location and our relationships with our local community. And knowing Waupaca Foundry is a huge employer in our community, and it has a lot of other businesses connected to it, right? And so I think it bodes us well from a grassroots perspective to take a look at what feeds back into our community so that we can continue to have a thriving community in all aspects.
Well, similar to AP courses, we are working on how to...
They'd be working on competencies in the class while hopefully building some of those products. And so, we'd have to be careful with what types of jobs we would accept and when during the course of the year you would accept them, because as students continue on with the course, ideally their technical skills would become better as well. But the reality of it would be that every year you turn over your workforce completely almost, unless a student took this class as an 11th grader and then wanted to stay on as a 12th grader. All those things are going to be in development as we continue to talk about this process over the next year.
Could some of those competencies, translate to any credit in the tech school?
Yep, that's what we're looking at and having those conversations. But want to also try to find that right balance. If you have too many competencies, then you're not going to have enough time for the other part of some of those soft skills, which, the sales, the research and development, the product design, the conversations about, hey, what is our bidding process going to look like and what is the actual cost going to be?
Mark,
just fun right now.
Mark, we all know that in manufacturing, a lot of what's moving forward is the whole concept of robotics.
Mm-hmm.
How does that fit into this overall? I mean, I'm sure you've talked about that with your team of people, because some of them are using robots, obviously, in their manufacturing.
Yeah, so what a lot of our advisory council committee members have said and agreed upon that, absolutely. But you still need to understand the basic functions when you program that machine to do X, Y, or Z. And so some of those competencies, some of those foundational skills is really where they're at. With the advancement of technology happening so rapidly, it almost becomes fearful that if you buy a X piece of equipment that has a big price tag on it that is technology driven, how long before something like that becomes obsolete? Whereas if you're teaching the foundational skills of what that piece of equipment or machine will be doing, that's much more transferable in a knowledge practice than just learning, a certain type of programming. Although some of the machines, I think, have some similar universal language in terms of like a G code or some other types of design and code programs.
So in order for us to move forward on this, I assume that we would need to look at some sort of cost associated with it. We have a location, what would be the cost of securing or building a facility for this? What kinds of costs are associated with equipment?
Yeah, so right now we just put in some rough estimates in the pack that we gave you guys last time we had met. And right now the biggest cost we think would be the air exchange, the HVAC type things. When we looked at with our advisory committee, again, some of our equipment may appear to be outdated, but it's about learning those foundational skills rather than learning on the latest and greatest piece of equipment. And there's nothing to say that, again, we couldn't work with local technical schools on going there or bringing in, that fab labs on trailers when it comes to that aspect of things. I forget the exact cost that I had put in there, but one of our goals for common manufacturing would be how can we become self-sustaining? That would be an ultimate goal. It's not going to happen within a year or two, but I think that's probably about a 5-year goal once we open up the doors to look at, how can you offset your cost that perspective.
Give me a ballpark. I don't have those figures in front of me.
We kind of broke it down into the staff, training, curriculum. It was around $84,000 is what we had initially laid out.
And that would be not for next fall or for a year?
That for 2019, 2020.
Right. So that would be budgeted in then for
1920.
1920.
And again, these were rough numbers. We're meeting with Mr. Hayek, I think on Thursday this week to kind of look at some of those in more detail. Like for example, there was an argument about putting staff in there. There's a $13,000 cost in there from a staffing standpoint. Well, we would incur that cost regardless because those kids are going to be in sections of classes. We put it in that budget because again, as a business, if you really want to be real about your costs, you have to factor in the cost of your employers. So that's where some of those accounting things really tease out and take a look at, for example.
One comment. Keep in mind that this item will come back to the board right around November for final approval. What we're seeking at this time is just the approval to secure a common manufacturing trademark. So the cost right now is a couple $100, not to exceed $500, and proceed with the planning for implementation. I mean, as Mr. Flayton outlined, we've got a number of professional community members who are donating multiple hours every other week to be a part of this leadership group, and we want to be respectful of their time. And certainly if this is not a direction that the board wishes to go, then we'll certainly notify those folks that there's not a need to continue with the plan.
So are we looking for a motion at this point?
There would be a motion to approve the requisition of the common manufacturing trademark and proceed with the planning for implementation in the 2019-20.
There is a committee recommendation for that. That's coming as a committee recommendation.
Yeah, I'm looking down at Steve.
I do recommend that we approve it.
That was a recommendation of the committee.
Yes.
There is no second required if it's a recommendation of the committee. Are there further questions?
Thank you, Mike.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Abstain.
Abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay. Let the record reflect that. Okay, Student Services Committee.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this one over to Greg just because I'm new to the board and Greg has been speaking with CISA 5 on utilizing one of our buildings on School Street, and it's creative use that we can get some mileage out, we can help kids in the area out. So since I'm a little sketchy on the details, I'll let Greg talk.
Thank you, Mark. Cooperative Educational Service Agency number 5, CISA 5, provides a number of services to school districts in our geographical area that school districts wouldn't otherwise be able to afford on their own. One of the services that they provide to the school district of Waupaca and local consortium of districts is an alternative program for students grades 6 through 12. That program is currently housed in Waupaca Fremont School District, and yet there is a need for an elementary-based program that would cover grades 2 through 5. CISA 5 has approached the administration with the knowledge that we have a building that is currently vacated, the previous district office on School Street, and they are interested in perhaps renting the facility. They would rent it for year 1 with the intent to open the elementary-based program serving students in grades 2 through 5 again, and with the intention of moving the secondary program, grades 6 through 12, under the same roof in future years. At that point, at the point at which they would combine programs to have a 2 through 12 option at that location, they may be interested in purchasing the district. So as we look to manage the assets of the district, certainly our property assets are among those that we're always cognizant of, and this is an opportunity for the district to enter into a potential agreement. It's by no means a deal that has been codified to any degree. This is simply the very initial stage, the board giving the administration permission to develop a lease agreement. So
That lease agreement subject to ultimate board approval, is that correct?
absolutely.
And when would that start, Greg?
Well, the concept is going in front of the CISA board this week, and indications are that they would like to post those teaching positions within the next couple of weeks with the intent to open the doors in the fall of 2018.
So, excuse me, so when you come back to us with the details, it'll be post haste here in the next month or so?
Yes,
It's not a special
things
meeting.
will move quickly.
Yeah, okay.
If the CISA board approves the concept.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And I believe it was the committee's recommendation in committee to develop a lease agreement with board approval.
There is a committee recommendation. It does not require a second. Therefore, the motion is before the board. Are there any comments, questions? There being none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, next item is the committee as a whole. It's with regard to the transportation RFP. The committee as a whole met in closed session on May 7th to conduct interviews with candidates that have submitted their RFP for the transportation, the potential of outsourcing our transportation needs. No specific decision was made. That was intended as a time for interview of some of the top candidates. It is now before the board for any discussion.
I'll start. I was, and I know some of the vendors are here tonight. Thank you for coming the other day, and thank you for coming tonight. The presentations were very well done. I mean, I felt comfortable with both groups. I mean, if they were running on transportation, I can see that they would do good service for our students. But my concern is a little bit different than picking one vendor or another. You know, I've been working for the district for 33 years, and it's been local control that whole entire time. And I know in recent years, it's not like it was when I was a kid, where, you know, the employees of the district served your food, the employees of the district cleaned your room, and the employees of the district transported the kids. And I realize that things have changed, and a lot of these services are being contracted out right now. I mean, it's a different world we live in. And like we spoke about in committee, you know, our job is instruction first, and I get that. And I get that instructions first, and that's what we need to focus. And there is some cost savings by contracting out, privatizing the bus transportation. But I personally feel that I like it the way it is. I like our local control of the bus drivers. I like that there are community members, though they probably would remain on staff, and I understand that both companies intend to hire back the bus drivers and our superintendent, our transportation director. I understand that, but there's something about having the sign on the side of the bus that says School District Waupaca, and knowing that we have all the control and we can call our own shots, that means something special to me. So I don't know how the vote's going to be brought up, whether you're going to vote first, if we're going to consider this, or if you're just going to go vote for each contract. I'm not sure how you vote. But so if you hear my vote saying no for both of them, it's because I would like to see the local control remain here. There is some cost savings that we were privy to, especially the first 5 years, because it involves selling off our fleet of buses. So it's a one-time capture of money that we can get over 5 years, and then the savings will continue after that, but the first 5 years are the most dramatic. I'm just a little nervous about other factors that we can't control. If we had to sell this and take this cash cow, if you will, you're only going to be able to do it one time. So once we sell this bus fleet off, we're never going to go buy 30 buses again. It would be impossible for us to do something like that. So we have one chance to do this. If the district was in financial straits right now, and we're not, but if we were, you know, I would probably consider something a little bit more rash and moving into a contracted service. But that's not the case right now. You know, my concern is more with the Wisconsin legislators. You know, what's going to happen when they decide that they're going to pull school funding because they want to finance the Foxconn project down in Janesville? Are they going to cut our budgets? Well, probably. What happens if something happens in Mitsubishi and all of a sudden they close down our foundry? And we have all these people leaving and our enrollments decline, and we need cash. Well, I would rather hold off, personally, and do it when we have to do it. Do it when we have to do it, instead of doing this right now. I came in late on the discussion. I mean, this is something that was going on before I got on board. So, you know, I kind of missed out in the beginning parts of it, but, you know, now I'm thrust into this, so I had to analyze this in a short amount of time and come up with my decision. So, I mean, that's how I personally feel about it.
Do we have any idea how the bus drivers and maintenance people and so forth feel about it as a whole? I mean, certainly there's a mix of opinions, but
Stand over. No, nobody's really listening to us at all.
We don't want it to happen. We love our jobs the way they are. We love our kids. There are a few people who have voiced their opinion that if this does happen, they will leave, and we're hard to replace. A lot of us have been here for a long time. Sue's been here for over 40 years. Bruce has been here for over 40 years. We all care about our students and our community, and we work hard for them. There are days that, come on. There are days that we'd like to just, you know, make a speed bump out of a kid or two, but for the most part, we love our jobs, we love our kids, we love our boss, we love our mechanic, our secretary. We work hard for them. We give them grief. We're one big family, and this is kind of tearing us all apart.
Yeah, it is.
Tearing the whole group apart.
And the big thing is, that's thrown in our face is, Waupaca School District can't get bus drivers. Well, if Waupaca School District can't get bus drivers, how do you think a contractor is going to get drivers? They have to go through the same test we go through. I don't get it.
Talking to some of the families, they feel more comfortable knowing us. So if these contractors come in and they bring people from outside of the area that these families are not familiar with, that's going to pull them back from using the busing system.
Thank you. What you weren't privy to is during the interview process, the companies that we did interview indicated that it was their intent to retain all of the drivers, all of the staff, including the office staff. The routes will remain the same, functionally the same the first year. Whether or not there could be some efficiencies after that first year, you know, it's something that we currently evaluate as well as to whether or not the routes need to or should change in order to be more time efficient and cost efficient.
What about our aides or mechanic though?
Pardon?
What about our aides and mechanic? Is he gonna stay on board? Are they gonna stay on board?
If
the aides are paid for by the district, so they remain.
The aides are paid for by the district.
And they would remain, and then the mechanic if he so chooses.
I don't know if you could hear that.
Just looking at this packet, it looks like the pay might even be better for the drivers through some of these companies. I know change is hard, and I just wonder if maybe the collection of you that came today to express your discomfort with this, if there may be some other people that wanted to go through because they see an opportunity to earn more.
The bus garage is very torn apart on this right.
And we love that you love your jobs, that you love the kids. That's wonderful. You're the first people that kids see at the start of the day, and then often the last representatives of our district. We don't want to lose that. That's important to us too. I don't have the same reservations that Mark does about financial insecurity and our ability to sustain bus service if we contract out as something that's less viable and are continuing to do it in-house. The cost savings, to me, make it more likely, more viable, and the companies that we're looking at have long, rich histories with school districts in this area and in the state. Very consistent service providers, haven't lost clients. We just really, I feel very confident that either one of these vendors would be able to provide us with excellent service, with a great working environment for our current staff.
Yes.
It's really hard for us to hear you say that, and we hear that at the beginning of every year and at the end of every year, how important we are, but then you're getting rid of us. So you are contradicting what you're saying, all for the dollar.
I'm not sure where we're getting rid of you from.
But you're taking us away from the district. It's like you're removing us from the family that we're supposed to be. That's how I think some of us do feel.
A lot of us not only get to know the students, but we get to know the coaches. And on these buses and the parents that chaperone these field trips.
And for us, it's not about the money. Believe me, it's not about the money. I have, my time in too, and I started at the bottom, managed, and would I like to make more? Of course, we all would, but it's not about the money for us, because if it was, we couldn't do our job.
If I may, and I'm not speaking in favor or against contracting out transportation services. Mr. Hayek, has an obligation to bring opportunities for efficiencies to the board, and that's what he has done. He is not trying to manage the outcome, he is managing the process. And we as an administration, and I believe the board, mean this as certainly no affront to the bus drivers. This district is here to serve the students. And sometimes that means that the adults get uncomfortable. But we're here for the students. We're here to provide a public education to our students and to provide one that is second to none. Food service has recently gone through this transition. I would offer that those folks feel no less a part of this district family than you would. At least they have not communicated that to me. Okay, so if you know different than that, then I would invite you or them to come and meet with me and share that information, enlighten me. But this is about the sustainability of the district moving forward. And although we are in solid financial status right now, we know that the future is untold. And we have to prepare as the adults in this organization for the future of our students. So again, that's not a pro, that's not a con, that's just the administrative responsibility.
So we went into this process really with the concept that it's almost a Tao philosophy, that our mind was open to everything, attached to nothing, with no attachment. And how this would all manifest in the long term, we didn't know. We weren't attached. We also had to look, basically, the Native Americans say, 7 generations in the future. Where would we be? How would our budget look long term? And one of the things we always focused upon is people first, because we know we're an organization of people. We don't make widgets. We don't make production things. It's all about people. So we thought, how can we maximize that? Because you're still our employees for the district. All the wages and all the employees are retained at a better wage, and they work for the district with their same routes, with actually a newer product and a deeper sense of obligation and commitment from the companies that we interviewed, who are very family oriented and community oriented. So how can we go forward with people and still have what's best for the people of our organization? It wasn't about casting aside and segregating, because everything's interconnected. The way we look at it, we're working relationships, we're a business, we're a community of collective interest. Office outfitters, or these people work in an organization foundry, they're not separate from us, they're part of our district, they're part of our community. So our whole concept was what people first, and that's what we looked at this whole RFP. And the concept, it wasn't to say segregation or separateness, it was how do we collectively come together. And when we look at the wage structure alone, it's better than what we can provide for you even going forward. And if we look at what they would pay transportation or benefits, that's better as well. Are they taking your routes away? No, they're not. Are you still going to meet the same children of your district every morning? Yes, you are. We're depending upon that. So that was the concept going forward. It wasn't trying to, there wasn't any malice intention behind it. Is there a cost savings? Yeah. There's $1 million cost savings in the first 5 years for the district. And you're still getting, and if you think about that concept, it's $1 million cost savings, and they're paying you more money. So how does that work? And they're giving you more, better, actually vehicles and transportation facilities than we can provide for you going forward.
If I may just
Yeah.
briefly, I'm not sure everyone was assured more pay.
Equal pay,
Equal.
Same pay, yeah.
But you said more pay.
Okay.
So I wanted to.
Yeah. But going forward, as that projected forward.
Their pay ranges are greater.
Their pay ranges are greater to start.
So there would be a higher upside.
Mhm.
There's no guarantee in that first year necessarily that there would be an increase, and I may have misunderstood what you were saying.
Correct. Thanks for correcting it.
So,
But that's really, hopefully, there was no malice intended from at least my department. We were just looking forward to how this organization would look in another 3 years, 5 years. And that's all. It really wasn't personal.
Can I just add my 2 things? In deference to Mr. Volkitsky, sorry. And he and I would agree on a lot of the comments that he made. The exception that I take is this. In the November and December of every year, your tax bills come out and we hear about it. How come the tax keeps going up? Why can't the school district keep our taxes down? Or what can we do to reduce that? We hear that all the time, every board member, and we have to look at that every year and say, look, it's important, all of that contribution through your taxes is important because of what we do every day in this district. All right? Now, we have an opportunity to save $1 million and at the same time retain all of our people and give you the same amount of money, at least the company will, and keep your routes the same, give you the opportunity to keep your bus at your house exactly as you're doing it now. And we are going to save $1 million in that process over 5 years. Okay? That's pretty hard for me, who represents the entire community, to turn my back and say, well, we just want to keep things as is. Because as is what next fall will look like on a daily basis. Still going to have your bus, still going to drive your bus, still going to pick up those kids, same route, but it isn't costing us as much.
The one difference being the signage on the side of the bus.
So can I ask one more question? Then, besides the routes being the same and the pay being equal at this time or whatever, what about thinking that we're gonna have to reapply for our job so we lose our seniority? Correct. Some of us have sick days built up, we're gonna lose those, correct? Some of us are almost vested in our retirement, we're gonna lose the school portion of that, correct? Those are other concerns for some of us that, besides, and it's not about the money, but those are things that are going to be in there because we're gonna be working for another company, not the school district.
Okay, but before anybody else, the companies that we talk to, okay, have benefits as the school district does. Some may be some different, some may be better than, but there are benefits that you will receive. It isn't as though there isn't going to be any benefits that you are talking about now that don't exist starting in with a new company. They may be different, but they're different.
That wasn't what the question was, though. We're going to lose everything we already have built up.
That's right.
Some of us have sick days built up.
I would say just as we worked with the food service department, we have very few employees that are vested in the WRA system because of the amount of hours they work. But the ones that are close to that, we worked with our food service employees. The money you paid into WRS is yours.
Right.
So that stays. So if you're close to that vested amount, we'll work with those individuals to see, okay, you're close, and we know that you're close, and we're not trying to take anything away. So we work with that, and we're working with that's if you have accumulated a lot of sick leave. But the majority of the bus drivers aren't vested. We know with the new companies that they have a different mechanism. It's always because they are not in the WRI system, which takes, how many years does it take? 8 years to get vested?
It all depends on your hours.
And you have to work X amount of hours, and most bus drivers don't work that many hours to get vested. Well, where the bus companies are different, they give you a 401k, and you're vested not based upon those amount of hours. In 5 years, you are vested in that, and normally they're matching 50% employee share. You pay 50 and then they give you 50, and there's profit sharing and things that are different. But the majority of our employees, because they are limited employees, they don't even take the health insurance because it's not affordable for them. So those concepts, the benefit package is probably better than what the district giving you. Sadly, I'm saying this to you, and maybe that's not good, but it's actually true. So that's how we work with those people who are close to best. I know that you're one of those. There's not many in your category, perhaps a few, and that's how we're going to work with those, just as we did with food service.
What would be the cost to cash out of everyone's sick days?
I'm not sure, but we could look at it. I mean, it wouldn't be astronomical.
Certainly doesn't seem like a in the big scheme of things. It's
Correct.
not- can't be a big help.
Okay, are there other questions at this point? I don't want to exclude any of those questions.
Mine's been answered, thank you.
All right, back to the board discussion. Any other comments as a result of some of the interviews that we have had and/or the concept with regard to the pursuing a contract or not pursuing a contract?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with this, and then we can still have discussion, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I am. We narrowed down the bids to two companies that we interviewed, who were here with their representatives, Right Way and Labors. And as Mark said earlier, and I can't say anything more eloquently than he did about their presentations and the fact that they were both here giving us information. They did a great job. We thank them for coming. And we know both of the companies are sound and authentic and very honest in giving us the information. We have to make a decision if we choose to move forward. And so we are going to move forward. At least I'm going to make a motion to move forward. And so I'm going to make a motion that we enter into a contract agreement with the bus company of Right Way for a 5-year contract as pointed out in the RFP that we were given and they have answered to.
I would second that.
There's a motion to enter into an agreement for transportation with Go Right Way and a second? Yes. Okay. There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Questions?
Can we,
We pretty well discussed it in closed session. There isn't much else to say.
can we amend that motion to include that if it gets passed, that the employees would be cashed out on their sick days?
I would be hesitant to say that until we know what that looks like. I'm certain the board would entertain that, but it's hard to necessarily talk about having a contract with a company and that being contingent upon something that the district itself does, which is separate from that.
We can make a separate motion on that if we choose to.
We can certainly
Yes.
bring that back
Yeah.
administratively.
Yeah. I don't think that anyone, just speaking for myself, but I suspect the board would certainly look into that as very favorable. But I think just for the contract's sake, we would move forward or against the contract and then talk about that on the second side. I don't think that we should hold that as part of the contract, but we should, as a district, take care of that.
Seems like it's gotta be such a trivial amount. Why does it?
Well, I think you're probably right, but I just think we take two motions on it then.
I would want to, I would agree to keep the motion in the second as it is and see if it moves forward then.
Yeah.
And certainly with the intent and request that we can look at this.
How many votes do you need to the VA to pass?
We would need a majority.
Four.
Quite honestly, there are two things. One, we don't have it on the agenda to say we will or will not be discussing a payout of sick leave for anyone, bus drivers or anyone else. Therefore, it would be difficult for us to have a motion and discussion on that since it's not on the agenda. I realize that may seem odd, but we have a process that by state statute we must follow, and that was not part of the agenda. It would have been, you know, had you been at the meeting last night and that issue had been brought up, we could have perhaps had enough information, although we wouldn't have had the 24-hour deadline to get it posted for today, but we would at least have that information.
And I agree, it's not on the agenda.
I think it is safe to say that, based on the discussion thus far, that if it's not as Mr. Hayek indicated, a large amount, that we would certainly consider that very favorably. I can't get into any more discussion than that, other than it was brought up, because it's not on the agenda. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's the way the rules are on board governance. But sometimes that people have to be willing to have some faith and some trust. I am going to. Any other comments or questions with regard to the motion that has been put forward? There being none, does anyone request a roll call vote? Roll call vote, please.
Pat Fair?
Aye.
Steve Hackett?
Aye.
Mark Polubitsky?
Nay.
Sandra Robinson?
Yes.
Dimitri Martin?
Yeah, aye.
Stephen Johnson?
Is that an aye?
Yes.
It was an aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Can we get next month's agenda?
We can probably have it before that.
Thank you all for coming.
We're not done yet. You can't get up on that. Okay, moving on to section E, administrator.
Okay, so the Chain Exploration Center has navigated its enrollment period, and I'm happy to report that of the 54 seats we had available, we filled 59. And so,
More chairs.
consistent with the language in the contract, the Governance Council, in consultation with the district administrator and the board, need to provide an exception to the ratio as it's been outlined. That's my brief and limited understanding, but I would ask either Megan Sanders or Rhonda Hare to comment to my understanding.
Yeah, so we at the CEC were just so overwhelmed with the excitement and enthusiasm that we received at enrollment that we did not in the first year want to turn any of those students away. So we accepted all of them. We, at the governance board meeting, considered the impact of our decisions. And so we are looking for consultation and considerations that you may have for us going forward. It is a topic that we will continue to discuss monthly at our governance board meetings. And so it is something that we're looking for comments and your own considerations from your experience going forward. So that is what we are asking in addition to it for the contract. And I'm happy to answer questions.
You had to step off for a second.
Okay, you and I've been having discussions then about the impact and what it would look like going forward. And you know, I'd like to move that we approve this, but I am going to add the caveat that we look at our contract and not immediately, but before we get to the next enrollment period, and look at whether we need to tighten the language in the contract. I think the 1:18 ratio is, as someone said in one of the meetings, a gift to the school. And there is something, you know, because siblings are, it plays out.
It plays out so that right now there are so many siblings in that 4K position currently. So when they go to lottery in 2 years, they will be in second grade. There will only be 5 spots. Next year, after this next school year, when we enroll, we will have lottery for second and third grade. So you have the 8 students in the memo. There's also another lottery that will take place for that second grade position, and that takes 7 kids. So when you consider that those students will then have siblings possibly in that 4K situation, we will go to lottery just for the siblings, and then the other students who are trying to apply in that second grade position would be second to the siblings. According to state statute, siblings take priority over any of the other enrolled students. And so those are the impacts that we considered from our enrollment. I don't know how different that will look in the future. It could just be that there is a large population in that area, and possibly in the future we won't be in that situation. And I have not looked at the population overall for the district for what the numbers are in relation to other grade levels, but it is something that we considered at the governance council meeting, and I think it would be in best interest to take the gray area out of the contract for the future. If you allow 60 students one year, and then we will never hit 54 then, which was always the intention, to have 18-to-1 student ratio. And so what would change from year to year then? If we allowed 60, then what would happen in the future years? When would we say no? And so that was something that we considered afterwards, because we were very, very excited about all of our students, and we did not want to turn them away. And knowing that this is our first year going forward, what the ideal in a parent's mind may not be what the model is in reality. So it may look different in their mind, and it may be something that is not what they're looking for after all, or doesn't fit the students' needs. And so we considered that as well.
So some students might choose to go vacate the chain exploration section.
So the gray area that Megan's referring to, that's the contract language right up there. So if you scroll up, you'll see at the beginning it says maximum of 54 students, but then a little farther down in line 11 it says this number may be increased or decreased in consultation with you. So that's the gray area we're talking about cleaning up.
I was just going to say, so in the future, if grade levels or numbers of students is added, do we look at total numbers or ratio?
I think that's the area that we're looking to clean up. I think when we set out to write the contract, it was really our intention to have an 18-to-1 ratio and to not exceed that. We did write in the gray area because in fairness, but I think from a parent standpoint, looking at that as well, if you change the numbers every year accordingly, that's not necessarily a fair and equitable system, maybe. So I think it's best to say we will stick with 18-to-1, and we will not deviate from that in future years.
Okay, so just hypothetically, if you had whatever number for this year that everybody's comfortable with, 54, 59, whatever it is, doesn't matter. So the next year, if we were to add, we would add 18 students.
Yes, the contract also states.
End of discussion.
Yes, it states in another section, it states we will add 18 students on both ends. So this first year was really the only gray area that we had.
So one of the considerations I have in making a motion, there is the possibility that students will drop out. So in a case where we right now have a class that would be approving to be 20, my thought would be that if someone drops out, until they get below 18, we do have a small waiting list, don't we?
There's 2 people on it currently.
Both for the same grade?
No, but they're in the same family. So, and it was the recommendation of Innovative Schools Network and also other charter schools locally not to exceed 60 students. So there are those 2 students on the waiting list.
So my thought would be to say, until you get down to, say, 17 students in a grade, you don't add back up, just keep it.
So I think we allow some latitude depending on the circumstance and in compliance with what is agreed to as any change ultimately in the contract. I don't disagree with you, but I don't want to necessarily tie their hands either completely.
So in that case, my motion would be simply to approve the numbers as presented.
There's a motion to approve the numbers as presented. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Does this motion then change your charter at all, or?
We will bring that in the future before the next enrollment period. I think we would look to amend the language that has to do with enrollment to take that gray area out, but also to reserve the right to go through the first year and see if our contract is serving us, and if there are any other amendments that we would seek out as well, so that we're not coming to the board multiple times, we're coming once.
And we'll review the contract too, because we've specified monitoring, and if that turns out we don't feel that's as effective as it could be, then we make our suggestions.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
As long as we're on that, can we just get an update on the building situation, how that's changed, as long as we're talking about, I know it's not on the agenda, but you are going through some changes. How are things going out there?
That's a weekly meeting.
Oh.
You're welcome to attend.
Well, give me the bottom line here. I think we're moving pretty well there.
We are in the planning phase, so we are meeting on Friday with Carl to get more answers, and they will all be yes.
Just to let you know, we have a project manager. He was from Krause Anderson. He's since retired. He's built he's been a project manager for numerous entities. He's retired in Oshkosh, kind of stole them away, took his card. Guy's great, quite frankly. And so he's the project manager. And we have a sound system going in there. We have painting projects of the gym. We have walls being knocked out. There's a lot of things going on, but we just have to, there's collective timelines, and the deadline is August 15th, I believe. But, we're going to get together and...
If I could ask, perhaps you could provide us with a recap for a future meeting again.
Mm-hmm.
I sound like a broken record. It wasn't on the agenda. If I'm going to start closing down one discussion that's not necessarily on the agenda, I've got to be fair to all of those discussions. So, again, my apologies for being the broken record. Okay. Next item on the agenda. Thank you for that brief update. Next item on the agenda, the BLT memo.
Yeah, so the professional learning time, as it's referred to on the memo, or I should say rather the board agenda, is actually in regard to our Wednesday early release activities for next year. And so as the board may recall, the teachers next year will have collaboration time weekly that will begin at approximately 2 p.m. and run until 4 p.m. However, we have made a promise to the community that this will be of no inconvenience to our parents. So therefore, families and students that need to remain at school during the length of what otherwise would be the regular school day will be able to do so. However, that's going to take some planning on our part. And so our principals and Mr. Aaron Jensen, our new Director of Athletics and Co-Curricular Activities, have been busy planning for next fall because we certainly don't want to wait until September to figure out what we're going to do with our students. So we do have Mr. Jensen with us tonight, and I will ask him to share what he would like to.
Stand up so I can see everybody. I can't look through the back of one's head.
See right through it.
Thank you, Dr. Nian. So I had the pleasure, as he said, of meeting with all the building principals. They had put some thought into it before I even got here, so that made the job a little easier. As you can see on the memo, if you went through it, we do have a little bit of a different plan for each building, whether it be the chain, the charter educational school, the WLC, WMS, or high school. You can also see that there are different percentages of kids that we expect to stay. Other than the high school, you can see that ranges anywhere from about 64% to 83%, and that we expect to fluctuate as the year goes on. So what we're doing is we're looking at it in like the first 5 week segment. We want to create a plan that we feel comfortable with in each of those buildings for the first 5 weeks. And we know that kids may talk to their friends and say, I love the activities, you have to come, and the numbers may go up and we may have to adjust. Or all of a sudden they find rides home and we have to adjust the other way. So the priority is going to be the safety and the accountability of the children. I'll start with the chain school and the charter school, as they're the first couple on there. We do expect the majority of those students to stay, and it actually worked out perfect in those areas, as Rhonda already has club time built into her days. I believe it's Monday mornings. Is that right?
Every morning.
Every morning. See, all right, I'm new, sorry. So we're going to move that to the Wednesday afternoon, and it's just going to take the place. Now, because of the addition of the charter school students, we are going to add one more fitness club to the 3 clubs that are already there, so that would make 4. For the WLC, in working with John, we are going to create 5 large stations, large groups, that we're going to rotate through in those first 5 weeks. So the kids will be organized by grade level, so we don't have kindergarten or 4th graders, and they're going to go through those 5 stations that are outlined in the memo. They're going to be supervised by our educational assistants, and then we fully anticipate to have some help come over from student council. I was able to meet with student council this morning. We had 20 student council members raise their hand and want to volunteer for helping supervise. Now, we will never have a student council member be the sole supervisor of a group. They will always assist the educational assistants. We also have the WMS, looking at it a little different from that perspective. In talking with Laura and Carl, we did feel that there was an opportunity to do some more specific things right away out of the gate at the WMS, and maybe needed because of the age of the students and what they may be interested in. What we're going to do there is we're going to send out a survey at the end of May, I believe their last homeroom type time, and we're going to gather information on what is their interest in these groups, so we can better plan throughout the summer on how many are we expecting in each of them. So we're looking at collecting data that way. They have about 10 educational assistants right now. And between the WMS and the WLC, we're going to look to the high school a little bit. I know Mr. Flayton has planned on working some of his educational assistants into the same time that the teacher learning is happening. And he feels that's important, and obviously that's the priority. If there are 1 or 2 left over, or some office staff that are left over that we can redistribute into help maybe some of those areas that we know are going to have a lot of kids, we'll plan to do that, and we'll work with Mr. Flatten on that. For the high school, it's a little more simple here. We've got probably, it says 39%. Maybe we expect less than that, but we'll plan for 39%. And it's going to be, they're a little older. We're going to have the high school commons and high school library supervised for educational time. I would like to have a supervisor in the strength training room for anybody who maybe has a sport later that night and can stick around and get a workout or exercise in from 2 until 3. A lot of our coaches are teachers, and they'll be in that until 4. So that's kind of what the high school will look like. For community collaboration, Dr. Nian and I have a meeting set with Pastor Andy at Trinity that's coming up. We're going to talk about how we can collaborate and get into some details. I know he's had these conversations with our community church leaders in the past. We're going to try to figure out some details of how we may be able to do that on Wednesdays. Also, the Waupaca Senior Center, I've talked to the Senior Center, and they're willing to go on-site or off-site with senior volunteers to help maybe play chess or play bridge or whatever it may be. And then the rec center is going to send me a proposal. It's a time that the rec center does not have staff typically, but it may be something that we can work out a contract for minimal cost to have an off-site station at the rec center. We also have the library that we're working with. Expected to speak with them tomorrow. In-kind collaboration, I already talked about the student council members, and there may be other options for this as well. Whether it's, if we have open gym and we have the fitness club at the chain, maybe we work in some of our student athletes to go and kind of help supervise and provide an example for those young kids. One of our department's goals, being athletic and co-curricular activities, is going to be increasing our participation in all of our programs. And I think we could use those high school athletes and high school co-curricular participants as kind of role models and recruiting pieces almost through this Wednesday collaboration. So that's kind of, I've been long-winded, but that's all I have.
Very much appreciate that. One of the things you had under the middle school is musical instrument practice. Realizing that the band instructors would also be participating in service, who would govern or look over something like that? Is that something that?
That's a good question, Steve, but I can tell you that I think one step that we will take is we realize that our educational assistants have their own strengths and their own interests, and we can look at that list and that, there may be somebody that has an interest in that specifically, and that list, we may take some stuff out and add some stuff in. After the first month, we may have an EA say, I would love to do this with the kids, and we may say, that sounds like a great idea. So I think we're going to try to play to their strengths too.
Aaron, one of the really the only criticism that I've heard from anybody along this about the Wednesday have come from some of the coaches who are tied up until 4 o'clock and may not have assistants who are non-teachers that they can fall back on. So they can't start, and then of course being Wednesday, they're already tight with practice time. And their complaint was, we're already only can go till X, now we can't even start till X. What can you say about that?
So I think that will be something we'll have to work through. I do think that we'll have to get some of this stuff settled before we can start working on how do we address that. I think the church conversation is going to be a big piece of that. If there is if the church community does alter some of the stuff that they do for confirmation classes and things like that, that could play a big role in what we do with our athletics. So in the next month, I hope to have a clear picture on what we're going to do with all of our athletic programs.
Thank you very
Good.
much.
Thank you.
Still have a lot of work in front of you. Okay, moving on, the Waupaca County Alternative Program.
So during the regularly scheduled board meeting of October 10th, 2017, the board moved approval to dissolve the charter status of the Waupaca County Charter School, which is now known as the Waupaca County Alternative Program. Having a charter status in the state of Wisconsin means that your school is open up to applications across the state. This program was intended for at-risk populations and therefore was not intended to be a true charter. That was the rationale and the reason why the board needed to dissolve that charter. Now what you have in front of you this evening is the Waupaca County Alternative Program Consortium Agreement. And so we are looking for board approval for that agreement.
everybody's had the opportunity to review this as part of the board packet. Are there any questions?
I would move approval of the Waupaca County Alternative Program Consortium agreement as presented.
Motion to approve the agreement.
Dimitri,
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 4 under Administrator, Part E.
So I'm just going to briefly introduce this, next memo item. We've got more 4K students than we have teachers, and it's a good problem to have. So we need another halftime 4K teacher. And if you have specific questions, Ms. Hare is here, as is Ms. Marcon, to field those questions.
How many more students do we have? I mean, what are we looking at?
We have 158 right now.
158?
Yes.
For next, signed up for next year?
Correct.
And how many are we presently serving?
It keeps changing. We're down 120.
129, 120.
Yeah, it's a big jump. So if we didn't hire another teacher, as you can see in there, there'd be about 19 students per class right now, and usually more enroll during the summer. So, and under our AGR rule, we have 18 to 1 in our kindergarten first, second, and third. So kind of don't want more than that in our 4K.
So this is a 0.5, so would this be a morning class?
Either morning or afternoon, and we also don't know what building it will be in yet because of logistics and where we're putting special ed, but we know we need one more teacher.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Could these students be in Trinity or?
Those sites are already full. Yes.
Is it possible that we would need a full-time person, meaning 2 sections? That seems like a pretty large jump.
Depends on the summertime.
It's.
Could be.
We would have to take that up in August or whatever.
As soon as we have an indication from the year.
I move addition of the point 5 into the 4K.
Second.
Teacher for the next school year.
You still second?
I still second.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Motion in 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions?
I just have just one question. And how, I understand if you have a full-time position, it's pretty easy to get applicants. Is it going to be difficult to get an applicant when you're only offering a half-time position?
It's a little harder. It's been posted for a while and there aren't really any applicants yet. However, we have some kindergarten openings in the district, so depending how those pan out, people might be interested in, I'd rather have the full-time, but I'd take the half-time, so that might pan out too.
That's an excellent question, because in many environments right now, a part-time position is very desirable. There's some people that may have retired that are now thinking, well, I'd like to do something at least for part of the time. Get your name into them if you're thinking that yet. But no, I mean, it's becoming more and more, I think, popular in some cases that people are looking for those opportunities as opposed to full-time, but we'll see what happens with us, obviously. I guess I'm trying to be hopeful for us. Okay, other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the non-renewal of a .25 FTE.
Yes, this is a layoff or reduction in force. We are going to be reducing the number of German classes offered at the middle school next year. We are not looking to eliminate a second language option, but rather we're exploring other languages as options for our middle school students. Languages that are more aligned to the needs of our students who are about to enter a global economy.
approval of the non-renewal layoff of 0.25 FTE for middle school.
Was there a second?
Steve.
Motion and second. Okay, any discussion?
You know, and I know when Linda was here, she was full-time. Is that position vacillated between full-time and part-time over the last couple of years?
It has, and it was made full-time at the beginning of this year through the recommendation of Mr. Egbert.
But so the previous year was 0.75? 0.5, so it went up, and it's kind of vacillating there with the numbers.
Well, and if you remember, when Mrs. Klein was here, she also did some Spanish some years.
That's true.
She kind of
That's my
split
fault.
depending on the numbers.
Other questions? Okay, there's a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Brings us to the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Motion and second. Any discussion? Questions? There being none, roll call.
Pat Fair,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Mark Polbisky,
Aye.
Sandy Robinson,
Yes.
Dimitri Martin,
Aye.
Steve Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, can I ask a question about the consent agenda? Not about the agenda, but as long as Aaron is here, about the positions of coaching. Just ask.
We've already.
Yeah, I just want to know if he's filled with most things.
Yes.
Aaron, just out of curiosity, we passed all of these coaches, but how are we as far as set with coaches? Pretty well set now?
As far as what do we need to fill?
Yeah.
I sent something out to all of the staff today, I believe, I think we have 6 high school coaching vacancies and 2 middle school currently. 2 are head coaching vacancies, and the others are either the JV or JV2 level at the high school. And then we have 3 middle school, because we need 2 middle school soccer, and then we have 1 assistant 7th grade football coach.
Does that seem like an unusually high number? Is that pretty, according to, and I'm sure you've worked with Mr. Egbert, so is that pretty typical now, right now, do you think, or?
I get the feeling that it's a little higher, but I know that there's been years that Mr. Egbert has had to fill 8 head coaching positions. So
2 years ago, I think.
yeah, so we're not there, so that's good. Yeah, I think with some of the JV and JV2 level, I would say that it's not extremely unordinary, I would guess.
Entertain a motion?
To adjourn.
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion and second. All in favor? Anyone who wants to stay can say nay.